Before signing that next outsourcing contract, perform a simple test. Ask the potential partner, "Can you walk me through your quality control process for when a specification is unclear, and how that process accounts for time zone and language differences?" The clarity or absence of their answer will reveal the level of risk embedded in the relationship. Below is an explanation of what a strong answer includes, and what should raise serious concerns. The answer to that initial question is critical because outsourcing civil engineering is not a simple delegation of tasks. It is a transfer of responsibility for critical safety decisions across significant logistical and cultural divides. The primary risks emerge from tangible communication barriers, where the integrity of a structure can be compromised by a single, mistranslated word. A technical specification as precise as load-bearing capacity, for instance, can be subtly altered in translation, leading to an incorrect material choice. When the team responsible for executing the design is separated by a 12-hour time zone, an urgent request for clarification on a Monday afternoon in the United States may not receive a response until Wednesday morning, effectively halting progress or, more dangerously, prompting a team to make an assumption to maintain schedule. This is compounded by cultural nuances where a yes may signify acknowledgement that a message was received, rather than confirmation that its technical details are fully understood and agreed upon. These misinterpretations are not theoretical. They create the specific conditions for latent structural failures. To illustrate this mechanism, consider a realistic scenario involving the construction of a multi-story residential project. The primary developer is based in the United States, but to optimize costs, the structural design and detailed drawings have been outsourced to an engineering firm in Vietnam. During a review of the foundational plans, the on-site U.S. project manager identifies an ambiguity. The specification for the reinforced concrete pile caps calls for a specific grade of high-strength steel rebar, but a note adds the phrase, "or approved equivalent." While this may seem like a standard provision for material flexibility, it introduces a critical point of potential failure. The local supplier in the project's region offers a rebar that is marketed as an equivalent, but possesses a slightly lower yield strength and ductility when measured against the stringent ASTM international standards cited in the primary specification. The difference is marginal, but structurally significant, particularly in a region with seismic considerations. The project manager, at the end of his workday at 5 p.m. in California, sends a request for information, or RFI, to the engineering team in Vietnam, asking for a precise definition of equivalent and a list of approved alternative materials. That email arrives at 7 a.m. in Ho Chi Minh City. The Vietnamese lead engineer, under pressure to deliver the next drawing package, reviews the query. A direct clarification would require him to contact the US-based engineer of record, causing a delay. Instead, he confers with his team and, based on their regional standards, confidently determines that their common high-strength rebar is sufficient. His response, sent later that morning, is brief and intended to be reassuring. "We confirm the specified rebar is appropriate for this application and will proceed." Due to a subtle imprecision in language, the U.S. project manager interprets this not as an assumption, but as a confirmation that the locally available material meets the original specification's unstated performance criteria. The RFI is closed, the marginally substandard rebar is procured, and it is installed on the foundation. This cascading communication failure, born from a time zone gap and a minor linguistic nuance, has now introduced a hidden vulnerability into the core of the building structure. To eliminate risks related to time zone lag and ambiguous communication, AXA Engineers operates on a two-shift model to ensure near real-time collaboration with US-based teams. Every RFI is reviewed under a formal escalation protocol, with all material equivalency issues flagged for mandatory engineer of record review. Responses are vetted by bilingual senior staff to ensure both linguistic and technical clarity. This ensures no assumptions are made and no shortcuts taken. What is the actual value of a 30% cost savings on design fees if a project failure results in a contract that is legally unenforceable in a foreign court? Beyond the physical risks inherent in communication, outsourcing introduces a complex web of international law, creating less visible but equally severe legal and financial vulnerabilities for a project. The moment engineering services cross a border, They enter a domain where legal precedents, contractual interpretations, and even fundamental definitions of liability can differ dramatically. This environment creates what legal experts refer to as jurisdictional nightmares. Consider a US-based development firm that hires an engineering partner in India for a large-scale infrastructure project located in Canada. If a critical design flaw emerges after construction has commenced, a monumental legal question arises. Which nation's laws apply? The ensuing conflict over jurisdiction becomes a convoluted, time-consuming, and expensive legal battle before the core issue of the failure can even be addressed. This legal ambiguity leaves the project stalled and capital frozen, as parties litigate the very framework of their dispute. This legal complexity extends directly to the protection of a firm's most valuable assets. When innovative construction methods or proprietary design software are shared with an outsourced partner, what legal mechanisms prevent that intellectual property from being repurposed for other projects without authorization? Enforcement of IP rights varies significantly between nations, and a patent or copyright that is ironclad in North America or Europe may offer limited protection under the legal system of the partner's country. Without meticulously drafted contractual clauses that explicitly define IP ownership, usage rights, and the severe enforceable consequences of infringement under a mutually agreed-upon legal framework, a company risks not only financial loss on the current project, but also the erosion of its long-term competitive advantage. These are not edge cases. They are fundamental financial risks that must be addressed with the same rigor as structural calculations. The integrity of the project's financial and legal foundation is as critical as its physical one. To see how these vulnerabilities manifest in practice, consider a common scenario where an outsourced design firm lacks granular knowledge of local conditions. A European developer initiates a significant commercial building project in the American Southwest and outsources the structural engineering to a reputable firm in East Asia to capitalize on labor cost differentials. The outsourced firm, proficient in general engineering principles, proceeds based on standard soil-bearing capacity data. However, it lacks specific expertise concerning the region's highly expansive clay soils, which can exert immense pressure on foundations during seasonal moisture changes. The resulting designs are technically correct, according to universal standards, but fundamentally inadequate for the specific geological location. The flaw is not discovered until construction is underway, and the initial foundation excavations interact with the local substrate, revealing soil properties that are dangerously inconsistent with the engineered plans. All work must halt immediately. The consequences are immediate and severe. The developer now faces a cascade of unbudgeted expenses. A new geotechnical survey is required, followed by a complete and costly redesign of the foundation system. The construction timeline is thrown into disarray, triggering a cascade of financial penalties. Heavy equipment sits idle on site, but the rental contracts continue to accrue charges. Skilled labor crews, scheduled months in advance, must be paid for standby time or be released, risking their availability when work resumes. Material prices, negotiated based on the original schedule, may escalate due to the delay, further inflating the budget. The initial 30% savings on design fees are now completely eclipsed by these massive, unforeseen expenditures. The developer, facing substantial losses, turns to the contract, intending to invoke the penalty clauses that stipulate significant daily fees for delays attributable to engineering errors. It is at this point that the jurisdictional quicksand fully reveals itself. When the developer's legal team initiates action, they are informed that the penalty clauses, while standard and enforceable in their own country, are viewed as punitive and therefore invalid under the legal system of the partner's home country. Their courts will not enforce a penalty designed to punish. They will only consider compensation for demonstrably proven direct damages, a far higher and more difficult legal standard to meet. This is the reality for companies that discover their contracts are unenforceable only after a disaster has struck. They are left bearing the full weight of the liability with zero financial recourse from their partner, holding a compromised project and a balance sheet deep in the red. All contracts at AXA Engineers undergo pre-engagement legal reviews by international legal counsel. Multi-jurisdictional dispute resolution clauses are incorporated, with binding arbitration in Singapore or Switzerland, jurisdictions renowned for neutral and enforceable rulings. IP protection agreements are tailored for each client, with strict policies and clear definitions of ownership, ensuring designs remain protected assets. The fundamental risk in outsourcing is not the delegation of work, but the potential for an unintentional abdication of ultimate responsibility. Rigorous oversight, transparent communication protocols, and comprehensive legal diligence should not be categorized as overhead costs. They are integral to the project's structural and financial integrity. Before engaging an outsourcing partner, a firm must audit their communication, legal, and quality control processes with the same scrutiny applied to its own internal teams. This level of scrutiny provides the foundation for successful, safe, and strategic outsourcing. AXA Engineers builds its reputation on these exact principles, combining time zone agility, structured escalation paths, and contract enforceability to transform risk into long-term value. In an industry where small oversights can lead to major failures, this commitment to proactive governance becomes a strategic advantage.